Hello dear viewer, Ludo Smell Murdoch X here with the expressest of polar games, the Polar Express. The Polar Express is a novel written by Chris Van Allsburg, the same guy that wrote Jumanji. It was published in 1985 and nearly 2 decades later saw the release of the animated film starring Tom Hanks as every adult. As with most movies aimed at children, we also found ourselves with a quick cash grab video game as part of a plethora of merchandise. Luckily for us all, the game developer hired for the project was Blue Tongue Entertainment. This was the title that they made after Jurassic Park Operation Genesis and before Barnyard, both of which are beloved games. While the Polar Express doesn't hold up to either of those titles, it's not bad. There are plenty of horrible movie tie-in games like Fight Club, but what we have here is a simple set of small games strung together to sell the story of a squad of sprouts sojourning on a steam engine traveling to Santa. Rather than judge the game by the sum of its parts, let's go through each of these pieces one by one. The Polar Express was also released on GameCube and Windows, but the PlayStation 2 version has 2 iToy games that aren't on either of those inferior systems, so let's take a peek. In decorating the tree, the player is tasked with waving around frantically over an advent calendar spot that is lit up in hopes of opening the door to reveal the prize inside. From time to time, a marionette will drop down and attempt to steal the ornament, but the player may slap them away before this thievery is complete. Like any iToy game, it's important to get the lighting correct, which is hard to do in this game because they put a thick layer over the camera video. Another problem here is that the marionettes are difficult to slap away. This may be because of normal iToy problems. It's hard to tell since things are so hard to see here. Having said all of this, it's a fine game. I'm glad it was included as an extra on this disc. The next iToy game is a little bit different. This one is titled Driving the Polar Express. You become the engineer and control which way the train will turn based on signal lights that you pass. You can select to go forward, left, or right. Whatever choice you make will be the way the train continues to maneuver through each upcoming fork until you make a new selection. On top of this, the snow collects on the windshield, which you wipe off with your arm. There's also a train horn that you can pull, which I did by accident many times. I've played a lot of iToy games, and this is one of the more unique ones.
Herplesimers. Bah, I can't stand children.
But now to the heart of the game, starting with Chapter 1, The Polar Express, Scrooge's Plan. Here we are introduced to a Scrooge marionette. I've never read the Polar Express book, but this character was not in the film. Scrooge here has stolen the children's tickets, and it is now your job as Hero Boy to return them. Also of note, the conductor in the game sequence is voiced by Jim Hanks, brother of Tom Hanks. Also of note, I can't show you the film sequences from the game. I had uploaded the raw gameplay footage to my second channel and it was immediately blocked for containing clips from the movie. So let's start from the beginning. A boy is struggling with his belief in Santa and goes to bed on Christmas Eve only to be awoken by the sound and lights of a train. The boy hesitates and the conductor says he is not obligated to board, but the boy changes his mind and runs and hops onto the train before it can pick up too much speed. On this train are more children who were picked up in the middle of the night for this magical voyage, and then the game takes a turn from the film by introducing the Scrooge character and having him steal the tickets from the children. Good luck, hero. This may not be canon, but it is now your video game duty. In this first mission, we need to jump over a few naughty toys in the first car before we find ourselves working with a child carrying a flashlight. He's too scared to open up the jack-in-the-boxes to find his missing ticket, but our young hero offers to do it if the other kid will just shine the flashlight onto the toys. The jack-in-the-boxes here rearrange themselves at one point, and I believe the goal is to remember the color of the boxes that we've already opened and find the final box to get that ticket. In the next car, we have a jack-in-the-box toy popping out of a felt Mario pipe, and we are tasked with kicking soccer balls into its face. This is a fun mechanic, and we'll see it come back later. The next car is a similar situation, but this time with food. Grab and throw food at marionettes until you've knocked them all down. To dodge the food they're throwing back, you can move left or right or duck down. At the top left of the screen is a heart. After 5 hits, our hero will die and respawn. In the bottom left of the screen is the coin count. Every 20 coins gives another life. As far as hearts go, there's only one way to refill them, and it doesn't show up until much later in the game. This soccer game is back, but this time with basketballs. Throw your balls into the face of Scrooge. Fun note about these soccer games. These areas start with nothing to chuck at the enemy, but with how fast these baddies pop out of their hidey holes, it doesn't take long for the car to fill up with the puppets or Scrooge's balls. After this boss fight, the hero is able to pull the emergency brakes and the game cuts back to a movie clip. During the segment of the game, the developers take a lot of liberties with the stories. In the movie, there is no Scrooge and the emergency brakes are pulled for a different reason. It feels a little bit wrong to change the story, but then again, I've already seen the movie, so it's nice to get something a bit different. Now back to finding tickets. This time around, we are forced to play tennis with another toy. This game is strange. If you've ever played a Pong or Arkanoid game, you know that based on where you hit the ball controls the angle that the ball will bounce off of you. Not so in this game. The ball movement is pre-programmed and nothing you do can control which direction it will go. Move to the middle of the court after each hit so you have time to maneuver to wherever it goes next. Just keep hitting the ball until you've won. This isn't a hard game, but it's frustrating to have no control. The next car is a sneaking game. Get past the cook, grab the ticket, then return to the entrance again, all without being spotted. It's hard to tell where the chef can see, but it only took a few tries to get past this segment. And now another soccer game, but this time it's mice and you have to jump on them to catch them first. Back the mice into a corner, get close enough to the basket that the throw indicator turns green and toss them in the bin. It's a short stage. The next car is a game of asteroids on ice. Use a punching toy to break open ice blocks that turn into smaller blocks. Getting hit with the smallest of the ice cubes doesn't seem to lose any hearts, so just keep on breaking them open until you unlock and collect the ticket. It's a quick and fun round. In the next car, we have another grab and throw game. Take toys from the pile and throw them at Jack-in-the-Boxes. This game shows up several more times, which makes sense as it's one of the most fun. Honestly, I think they could have done with even more of these. It's good fun. Next car, Bop Boxes with an oversized squeaky hammer. It's an easy game and it was nice to grab a few more coins. With nearly all of the tickets found, the game's story diverges from the film's version of events once more. Scrooge takes the final ticket and hides it in a vent. The girl who does not have a ticket is dragged away by the conductor, but when the hero child finds the lost ticket, he attempts to catch up with them on the roof of the train. This segment is a bit long, but it has loads of coins and no hearts are lost. It's a nice way to build up some extra lives before the next set of stages. The goal here is to get to the front of the train and avoid as many obstacles as possible. This was frustrating for me because I couldn't understand all of the symbols that the game was throwing up about how to dodge. There are other problems with this part of the game too, but the only one that truly bothered me were the toy pieces. If you miss them, I don't think there's a way to go back and get them. We should talk about these toy pieces for a moment. I thought that these would unlock minigames that could be played from the main menu, but this turned out not to be the case. I never did figure out what collecting the toy bits did. And now for the skiing segment. This is the best and worst part of the game. It's difficult and unfair, but it also feels like one of the more fleshed out segments of the game. So the goal here is to race down the path and get to the end before the train does. They do not make this clear at all, and I thought that I was missing something. There are short segments of skiing where the camera turns backwards, and I thought maybe this was telling me that I needed to jump onto the train in one of these spots. Long story short, the first time I played this, the game destroyed me. On my second try, I was doing great until a bug at the end of the stage ruined my run. Third try, I was trying to figure out how to jump onto the train, and the stage just ended. You know what? This stage is a great metaphor for the game. It doesn't always make sense and it has problems, but it's fun. After making it to the front of the train, we meet the two engineers and play a game where we toss them parts that they need. I believe this is the first time we see healing items as well. This heart item will fill the meter full, if you can catch it. There were times I was sure that I got this item, but my heart meter didn't fill up. This is another confusing stage, as it's hard to tell what pieces the guys need and how to throw it to them. When you're in the center lane and throw a part, it looks like it's going to one of the engineers, but it's actually being thrown away. I'll be honest, I never figured this game out. I just kept tossing parts to the engineers until the stage ended. The first rhythm game. The engineers call out 4 moves which you repeat back to the beat of these sick jams. And we're back in the train with one of the toy tossing games. These are a lot of fun. I still wish there was more of these. Now here's another interesting game. It seems that I missed part of the instructions, so it took me a while to figure this one out, but you push around boxes and then call out to the girl which direction you want her to slide. She'll need something to push off of, so you have to place a box where you want her to stop and another behind where she'll push from. This is a bit like a box pushing challenge from a Zelda game, but with an extra layer. It's a clever game mechanic. Catch mouse toys and throw them into the bin again. This is the same game that we've seen before, but with a slightly different stage layout.
So you want to go to the North Pole, do you? Well, to get there, you'll have to get past me. And I don't believe you can do it.
And finally, the boss fight against Marionette Scrooge. Throw snowballs at his exposed heart and jump over ground pound waves. This is a fast and fun game, but it's not the final stage of the train area. Another rhythm game, but this time with the serving staff of the train. It's a bit dialed in, but what it lacks in challenge it makes up for in charm.
Right, spin,
Up, left, right, spin.
And finally, we have control of a train cart that we control speed style. Remember that part of the movie where Keanu Reeves tells everyone to get to one side of the bus to keep it from tipping over? This stage is sort of like that. Tilt the train to pick paths that avoid obstacles while also leaning away from potholes and vehicles on the street next to the train car. Gone is the heart meter, replaced by a wrench in the bottom right corner that is used to measure health. Keep on chugging along until the train jumps into the next area where the children hop into a pneumatic tube vehicle.
We seem to be going underground. Hold on tight, everyone. I think we've arrived. Where have we arrived? We've reached the end of the track.
In this challenge, your goal is to twist in the tubes and hit levers that match the correct colors. We are given the color on the display of the vehicle, and one of the children will also call out the color, though there is a bit of a delay with that. Best to watch the display. Successfully hit enough switches within the time limit to proceed. Hitting correct switches increases the time limit. This goes on for 6 stages before moving on to the conveyor belt games. In these conveyor belt games, the hero can ride the belts around to find levers that he can flip to change which way the belts carry passengers and packages. Hit every lever and then ride the belts to the next area. Each stage is a bit more complicated than the last, but just stay focused on getting to all the levers. Not the most fun of the stages, but they are some of the best looking. Imagine riding on conveyor belts inside of a toy factory. How cool would that be? Quick side note, I used to drive a truck, and one of the most interesting warehouses I ever went inside of was Oriental Trading Company in La Vista, Nebraska. This place has loads of conveyor belts shipping toys to all corners of the building. It's absolutely fascinating to see in person. This game stage reminded me of that place. After getting through the conveyor belt stage, the children are dumped into a pile of toys and begin the platforming segment of the game. Jump around, avoid obstacles, grab ropes, bounce off of jack-in-the-boxes, and maneuver your way to the end. The jumps can be a bit difficult and the hitboxes on the obstacles are hard to avoid, but it's still a great area. I love that the stage is built entirely of gift boxes. This stage design is right out of my childhood dreams. Next up, we are tasked with taking control of the Elves' Zeppelin. Maneuver up, down, left, and right. There's also a speed up and a slow down mechanic, though I could never see any difference when hitting the speed up button. This stage is one of the difficult ones. It's a big Zeppelin that's hard to squeeze through the tight spots that we're presented with. Right at the end, we have to maneuver the bag of gifts hanging from the vessel between a tightly packed set of buildings. It's stressful, but like the train tilting area, we have a much larger health bar down in the bottom right corner than compared to the standard heart container. And that's it. If you complete this stage, all of the children around the world get their Christmas gifts. No pressure. And that's it. Including the iToy games, this took me around 2 hours and 45 minutes to complete. It's not a bad game. It currently sells for around $7 It's not a bad game. It currently sells for around $7, which is a fair price for a fun and fast children's game. Give it a shot sometime. Thank you for watching, llamas.